Hello, friends. Welcome to high school. I'm so excited to be walking this adventure with you. About 8 years ago, when my oldest son was entering high school, I roughly felt like the Israelites who were wandering through the wilderness. I really did want to get to the promised land, but I had no idea how to get there. And so I talked to lots of different people and I researched online and I tried to pull together resources. And somehow, by God's grace, my son made it to college, made it through college, and now is thriving on the other side. But I will tell you that the path to get there was a little bit bumpy. So if I can smooth out any of the rough spots for you, I hope to be able to do that. So in this video, I'm going to be sharing some of the lessons that I learned along the way and also some resources that might help you in your adventure. So again, you are welcome to talk to lots of different people, but hopefully this will get you started. So a few days ago, I sent out an email, and my emails will all be numbered. So if you look for the one titled email number 3, you can go down and find two very important things. One is a link to this file, and this file called CC Ch1 emails and FAQs, that will contain every email that I will ever send. So if you ever get lost in a flurry of emails, you can go directly to that file and it'll have all of them archived. But the second resource that I want to point out is this Google folder called 2223 Challenge 1 Resources. If you click on that link, it will open up this folder with lots of subfolders, with lots of resources there, and they are categorized and organized for you. So here's the problem though. Every time you want to get to this, you're going to have to go back to that email and it'll get lost, right? So it'll be hard to find. The way you can fix that is to go up to the folder name and right click on it and then choose Add Shortcut to Drive. So what this is doing is it's creating a link on your Google Drive that will always be able to take you back to that folder. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to choose my drive, clicking on the arrow over. You'll see that I have lots of different things here already created. I'm just going to add the shortcut. And now, after that finishes up there, if I click on my drive, you'll see that I have a link directly to that folder. I actually have it there twice because I've already worked on this one. So let's go ahead and click on that. Now every time I go to my Google Drive, I can click on my drive and that folder will be there. So let's open it up and take a look at what's inside. Just to point out a couple things, you'll notice that there is a folder for every strand, every class that your student will take in Challenge 1. That is because anything that I hand out to your student, anything that I send to your student, I will include a digital copy here. So if your student ever loses a resource and needs this, you can help them go and find that. And the students also have access to everything except answer keys. Those answer keys will be locked and they'll have a password associated with them. All right, so going down here, I also want you to note two additional folders. One is called Preparing for Graduation and Beyond, and those are the resources we're going to look at tonight. And the other one is called Welcome to Challenge Videos. These are just helpful little tidbits where you can get some more information, and you're welcome to watch those at your leisure. So let's start with the Preparing for Graduation and Beyond. The first thing I want to draw your attention to is these two documents that are from the Illinois State Board of Education. One is the Illinois graduation requirements. And then within those graduation requirements, what are the mandated units of study? So you can go through those. I assure you that CC well prepares your children to meet the Illinois state standards. There are a couple of things that you do need to consider. They are required to have a computer literacy course that either is freestanding or built into other study, which I would say Challenge 1 provides the perfect platform for that. And they are required to have health. And I cannot say this enough. I love the health curriculum that we just walked through with our girls. So if you're looking for a good health curriculum, I'd love to talk to you about that. But for now, let's start out with high school transcript. If I go into this high school transcript template, this is what I'm going to find. And this is exactly what it says it is. It's a template for you to use that is already pre-filled with the course names the way we would need them to be applied in Illinois State. So you can see on this transcript here, this first page is for a student who plans to do some dual credit enrollment. So CC has a partner program called CC Plus where students can earn college credit for the classes they're already taking in Challenge 2, 3, and 4. So that's a great option for you. Your student might also take a dual credit enrollment class at a local community college. If your child takes dual credit, you do want to include that on their transcript. So this again is an overview. Let's say your student is not going to do dual credit. No worries. We're just going to replace that box with their service and achievements. So I tend to want a one-page transcript for all 4 years with addendums at the end, and you'll see why here. Look at this class here called American Literature. Suppose that I'm a college and I'm looking at your student's transcript and I'm thinking to myself, I have no idea what that class entails. You will also want to include a course description and all of the text that your child has read in that class. So when you look at this list, that's a very different picture of American literature than a child who read 2 novels in a year. Likewise, for our American government, our students don't just read a textbook about government, they actually go back and read all the founding documents. And so those are really great things that you want to spell out for colleges, and you'll include that with your transcript. To use this document, you can make a copy. So you're going to come up here to File, Make a Copy. And then you'll want to name this with your child's name. So in the case of our sample student here, his name is Andrew Smith, high school transcript, and you could take off the word template because this is actually going to be his transcript. But right now, you are sharing your son's transcript in a folder with everyone who has access to this folder. So we want to change that. You will just click on the folder here and you'll back out of it until you get to your drive. Now you may want to set up a folder for your student. Okay, so in this case, we'll set it up for Andrew Smith and we'll click on the blue check mark. Now I've created a folder for Andrew and I'm going to put this file in that folder. So again, here's the name of my document, here's the folder where it's going to, and I'm going to make a copy. And now I can change this. I can put in Andrew's address and his birthday and his graduation date and his actual email. I can change this little icon in the middle. One thing that's important to note is that as a homeschooler in the state of Illinois, your homeschool is considered a private school. And so you do want to name your school and put your address down there. You or your spouse would be the principal and your contact information. Again, you can type right in here with grades and you can type in the dual credit enrollment. If there are books that your child didn't read, you can simply highlight them and delete them. So this should give you a really great start and a really great overview of where are we going over the next 4 years. You can see your students will end up with a lot of credits and they'll be well prepared for college. But how do we actually assign these grades? How do we give these grades? And I want to pause here for a moment to change our thinking on that. We don't give grades. Our students earn grades, and that means that they have to do some work to actually earn those grades. So the next document that I want to take you to is called the 22-23 Challenge 1 Grade Book Template. So imagine that you are a teacher and you have a group of students. There are a number of assignments that they have to complete and they're going to earn a grade for each one. You need a place to record those. So that's what the gradebook template is. And this is what it looks like. When you open it, it's going to remind you in that first tab to please make a copy and rename your document. So let's do that. I'm going to make a copy here, and again, I'm going to call it Andrew Smith 22-23 Challenge 1 Grade Book. I can take the word template off. I'm again going to move it out of this folder, backing up to my drive and finding my folder for my proverbial child, and then I will select it. So again, the name of the document is Andrew Smith Gradebook. The folder is Andrew Smith. I'm going to make a copy. And now I can look at what's included in this document. So this is the gradebook that I created for my son. You can choose to change, edit, delete any of the information that you want to, but it will give you a good overview of what are some possible things that you could grade. So for Latin, this is the text that we're using, Henley First Year Latin, and I am choosing to have quizzes and tests be the way that my son earns his grade. So in this first column here, you can see the week and how much they're covering. So before you panic in that first week, just remember that they're reviewing material that they have reviewed for multiple years now. In class, I will give them a quiz on lessons 1 through 6. You will have access to that quiz and to the answer key. And so that is how I'm assessing my child. And you can go all the way through the semester and see that after every assignment, he'll have a quiz, and at the end of the semester, he'll have a blue book exam. So quizzes and tests are how I'm grading Latin. Physical science. We're using exploring creation with physical science by Apologia. And the way that my son is going to earn his grades are through tests, journal entries, lab reports, and a research project. So again, you can go through and see that every time we do an experiment, he's going to be expected to make an entry in his lab journal. I've just chosen to make that out of a 10-point scale. So if he's done a great job, and if it's complete, and if it looks like he's done the work that is required of him, he will earn 10 out of 10. If not, then I can grade that accordingly. For the tests, Apologia actually has these tests built in, and they tell you exactly how to assess them. So for example, this first test is worth 23 points. So that part is a little bit unique in Apologia, that the tests are all different point values, but as long as you know how to grade it, you'll be fine. If you scroll down to the bottom here, you'll see that in second semester, the students get to do some self-guided research. So they get to choose any topic of their choosing in the scientific realm, and they're going to spend the entire semester researching, investigating that, and writing an essay, which they will deliver in class. And then the students will ask them questions. So it's very doable. You'll see that each week is broken down into a very specific assignment that you can assign them points just for completing. And then at the end, you'll assess their final project. So that is science. Algebra 1 is the math that is suggested for Challenge 1. I do recognize that there's a wide variation and that a lot of our students are doing different math levels or math curriculums. Totally fine. Again, you are the parent. You are the teacher. You get to decide how to assess this. For math in our home, we only grade tests. And so we just take the tests. It's the number earned divided by the number possible, and that creates a percentage, and that's how we grade. So you again can edit this. Remember, this is your child up here, Andrew Smith's grade book. So you can type in whatever assignments you want there. American literature. So before we dive into literature, I think it's really important to note that your child is earning 2 credits for this strand. They're earning an entire credit for American literature, and they're also earning a credit for composition. So with that in mind, the question at hand is, how do they earn those grades? What is the work that they're doing that grants them these grades? So again, for literature, I am going to have my child earn that grade through journals and discussions. So for example, suppose that my son is assigned to read 3 chapters of The Sign of the Beaver. At the end of those 3 chapters, he is going to create a journal entry in his literature journal. And here are the things that I've chosen for him to include. I want to know who are the main characters in these chapters, where and when did it take place, so the setting. What are 3 to 5 major plot points, big ideas of things that happened? And then, did you notice any themes? So students we'll talk about this a lot in class, like what are the overarching themes that are woven through this story? So for example, in Sign of the Beaver, is there pride? Is there friendship? Is there loyalty? What are those big ideas that you notice? And then last but not least, I want my son to include at least a couple of direct quotes. And here's why. So this is the year that we're really going to step up their writing. So instead of just making claims, I'm going to ask them to support those. For example, let's say that I make the claim that Matt is loyal to his family. The very first question that someone should ask me is, how do you know that to be true? What example could you pull from the book to support that claim? So in order to be able to do that without having to reread the entire book every time they're writing an essay, if they take really good notes in their journal, they'll have all of those pieces that they need to do the writing part. So also note in this tab on the spreadsheet that these darker pink books are the ones that they will be writing essays on. So we've talked about ways to scale. If you choose to eliminate a book from the reading requirement, then you would just highlight it and you can just say delete row. And it'll take that book out and it'll adjust the points so that your book looks accurate. So let's go on to composition. These are the essays that the students are going to be writing under the direction of the Lost Tools of Writing. Now, I know we've used this in the past couple of years, but this is the year that they're really mastering those concepts. It is also the last year that we give formal instruction in composition. So it's very important that your students do the writing exercises. I hear it all the time. Ch1 students who say, I don't need that. I can write my own essay. I've got it sorted. Hear me on this. They don't have it sorted. And it's important for them to go through these thought processes that are associated with these different activities. So again, you'll notice the 3-week cycle. 1 week for invention, that's discovering ideas with 5 common topics. 1 week for arrangement, that's ordering and sorting and prioritizing. And then 1 week on elocution. How do we really say this in a winsome and eloquent way? They will present those essays in class. One thing to note, Lost Tools of Writing does have checklists in the back of your student book and in the back of the parent book, but I will tell you that I use my own rubric, which kind of synthesizes the skills that the students learned in IEW and the skills they learned in Lost Tools of Writing. So I will hand that out to the students when it comes time for their first essay. It's up to you. If you choose to use the checklist in the back of the Lost Tools of Writing book, you can just change the number of points here to reflect that. So that's composition. That takes us traditional logic, which is so much simpler. So the way my student will earn his grade in this class is through daily work and a quiz at the end of the semester. So this is super easy. The students are going to read the lesson. The book actually breaks it down into 4 daily exercises, and I am just giving my child 10 points for completing the work, grading his own work, and fixing any mistakes that he made along the way. And so again, it's going to be total earned each week out of 40. And then I see here now that I need to add a row for the final exam. So this will be the blue book at the end, and we will fill in those points when we get there. All right, in spring semester, we move into drama. And this is our students' first experience with Shakespeare. It's a great book called Taming of the Shrew that is looking at how relationships come to be. Is it love at first sight? Is it a forced marriage based on money and desire for wealth and security? It's looking at all those different ways that relationships start. And we will have some great conversations talking about what makes a good marriage, and looking at dating and courtship throughout the years and how that's changed over time. So again, how will my student earn his grade? He will earn his grade through journal entries and a final project. So the way this works is we will actually read this play aloud in class. When my son comes home, I will ask him to make a journal entry very similar to literature. Who are the main characters in these acts and scenes? Where was it set? And what are the major plot points? And are there any great quotes that you want to remember? So again, journal entries every week. And then at the end of the semester, they will complete a project. They get to choose this. It really has a wide open field of opportunities. It just has to be related to William Shakespeare. So we've had students who've acted out a scene from a Shakespeare play. We've had students who have created a 3D model of the Globe Theater or written an essay about the differences between Shakespeare's theater and modern theater. So lots of opportunities here. They'll work on this throughout the semester, present it in class, and you as a parent will get to assess that and assign points. American government, I'm just going to give you the big highlights here, and then we'll dive into this a little bit deeper in a different session. So how my student is going to earn his grade in this class is through notes, a timeline, summaries, recitations, and a blue book exam. And if that sounds complicated to you, it is. You are exactly right. This is probably the fullest seminar that the students will take. So, big overview, they're going to research a period of history, just getting the lay of the land. Then they're going to put some events and people on a timeline so they can kind of get a framework. They're going to annotate one document from American government. And so these are all the foundational documents of American government. And if you need help with annotating, in the back of your challenge guide, you'll find several different resources starting on page 224 that will show you how to annotate. And we'll do this together in class as well, so they can give it a try at home with the Mayflower Compact, but then in class, we're going to be talking about all those different ways that we can annotate. And then when they come home, they're going to write a summary of that document in historical context. So there are different options here. And I encourage you to decide as parents how you want your child to summarize this document in historical context. This is how it looks for me in my home. So you're talking about this colonizing America time. So set the stage for me. Then tell me about the Mayflower Compact, why it was written, and was it effective, and what was the impact. So it's a long paragraph, but usually not more than a page of a summary, and they're going to do that for each one of the documents. At the end of the semester, they will be able to bring in all of their summaries to use for their final Blue Book exam, and we'll talk more about that later. In addition, they have 3 recitations that they're going to give throughout the semester, and I've chosen to do those on week 3, 6, and 9. So on week 3, they're going to recite the second paragraph of the Declaration of Independence. On week 6, they're going to recite the preamble to the Constitution. On week 9, they're going to recite the U.S. presidents, and I just realized there's one more. And on week 12, or any time after that, between week 12 and week 15, they're going to recite the brief outline of the U.S. Constitution. So it is our hope that those things will become internalized. At the end of this semester, students will be ready to take the U.S. Constitution test, which is a requirement in the state of Illinois for graduation. So there will be a Blue Book exam at the end of the semester. One of the pieces of that is students will have their summaries, and they are going to draw a time period. They'll have 2 minutes to prepare using their summaries, and then they're going to give an oral presentation of a 5-minute speech. The other half of that will be a written U.S. Constitution and government test that we will administer in class. So it is the most complicated of the seminars. It is also extremely fun and really fruitful, so I'm very excited for that. But after that full semester, we can all use a little bit of a break, and so that takes us to economics. The way my student will earn his grade in economics is through notes, projects, and exams. So in the beginning, we will be using Whatever Happened to Penny Candy, and there's a Blue Stocking Guide workbook, if you will, that goes with that. And so the students just read and they answer the questions in the Blue Stocking Guide. When we move on to the second book, Penny Candy, or I'm sorry, Money Mystery, they are then expected to kind of follow that same pattern, but do it on their own. I do want you to know there is a Blue Stocking guide for Money Mystery as well. So if you prefer to purchase that and have your student complete that, that's a really great way to review as well. There are a couple vocabulary quizzes that we'll have in class. And then at the end of the semester, the students will present 2 projects, and these are super fun. So the stock market project, we give them $10,000 of absolutely fake money, which they are invited to invest online in a private game that we play in 6 or so stocks. And they have to invest all of their money and they have to hold it for the whole semester. And then at the end of the semester, they sell those stocks online and we find out which stocks gained, which stocks lost, and who gains the most cumulatively. So it's a super fun project. The kids get an idea of investing and we will have a stockbroker come in and talk to the class. Then the cost of living project is one of my favorite things about Challenge 1. Total. So we ask the students, who do you want to be when you're 23? We ask them to envision a potential career that they might be interested in pursuing. They have to research how much does that career typically make, and then they have to create a personal budget. And so we ask them to consider things like, are you going to be married? Are you going to have children? How does that factor into it? Where are you going to live? What kind of car are you going to drive? And they create a comprehensive budget, which they then present to the class. It's a wonderful opportunity for you to have great discussions about budgeting in your own family. Don't be surprised when they come and ask you to see your budget, which was very convicting the first time I had a student go through Challenge 1. All right, last but not least, your student will earn a credit for speech and debate. And so in speech and debate, I just want to point out that the way my student is going to earn credit here is through writing and delivering both speeches and debate cases. And so I will walk your students through this process. It's going to be a lot of fun, but I do want to encourage you to have your student practice at home so that you can assess them. Sometimes how they do in class is very different than how they might present at home, so I just want to give you the opportunity to hear those. I will give you assessment forms that you can use for that. So that is a giant overview of your grade book. Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing here for just a second so that I can see one other piece, and we'll close all those out. I do also want to let you know that I have a couple other resources that you can use. So let me go ahead and share my screen again. If we go back to the Challenge 1 resources folder and we come down here, you can see that there is a Challenge 1 planner template and a planner that's already created. So I just want to show you what those look like. If you have a great planner, then just use it and that's fine. Here is one that is done for you. So here's a template where you could write your student's name or type it. And then this is what it looks like. So it's got a blank for some weekly goals. That might be exercise or spiritual formation or other activities that they're involved in. And then you'll see that it's laid out so that Friday is the first day. We include Saturday because sometimes my working students still have to get some schoolwork done on Saturday, and then Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. At the end of this book, there is the Challenge 1 literature and books that I showed you before on that transcript, so that's included at the back as well. If you prefer, there is a PDF version that is all ready to print, and you can send that directly to Office Depot and they will print that. If you need help with that, just let me know. But last but not least, navigating the Challenge 1 guide is a little tricky in the beginning because, as I mentioned, every subject has kind of a rhythm. So if you want to see what that rhythm might look like, you can open this document called 2223 Suggested at Home and in Community Schedule by Week. So this is what it looks like, and you can see it's at home day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4, especially in these first weeks where they are covering a crazy amount of Latin. This really will help simplify their study habits. So for example, you're going to review all the vocabulary from page 7 to 64, right? You're just going to drill that. But then look at this. Instead of having to look at this list of disjointed rule numbers, this just spells it out for you. It's all the rules between 14 and 71. And we're just going to put them in order instead of having them disparate. For exercises, your student might want to do some spot checking along the way here, but it is unrealistic to expect that your child is going to complete 27 exercises, some of which have 30 to 40 problems. So spot checking that, you could choose a couple of exercises. You could have them do one from every single exercise. So just be thinking about how you want to do that. The other thing that this suggested schedule has, though, for you is it gives you an idea of what they're working toward. This is what I'm going to cover in class. And that becomes pertinent when you get to literature. It'll tell you what we're going to do in class, so what your child needs to be prepared for. So, for example, week 1, we're going to discuss Sign of the Beaver, which means your child really needs to have Sign of the Beaver read, or otherwise they won't be able to participate in that conversation. But some of those secondary books, we might spend 3 minutes comparing that book to the Sign of the Beaver. So then you have a little bit more flexibility to decide, do we want to invest that time here this week? And you can adjust based on what your family has scheduled. So again, this is called the 2223 Suggested at Home and in Community Schedule by Week. Right now, the first 6 weeks are there for you just so that you can get a feel for how these classes flow. Once you've got that, you and your student will be off and running, and you can adjust it to suit your needs. So I hope that you have enjoyed just taking a look at some of these resources. If you need any help at all, please, please, please call me. We can jump on a Zoom call together. You can share your screen and I can walk you through any of the steps that you need to know. I am looking forward to partnering with you, and I look forward to seeing you soon. Thanks.